Okay, so in this video I'm going to demonstrate how to color the branches of a tree into different colors by the index of the characters it will appear in the L system string. So the first thing I will need to do is to quickly create a tree. So basically this will not only works for the space colonization behavior, it also works for the L system behavior and general tree behavior. So you can load the L string with the L system behavior and color the branches as you want, or you can generate a procedural tree with the general tree behavior. So let's finish growing of the tree. This tree. Okay, so now we have a tree here, and uh, after the growth, the first thing you need to do is inside the Entity Explorer, you select this root internode. Okay, so as you can see, all the indices within this tree are all -1, -1, and to calculate the index for all of them, you select the root node. This is important. You select the root node. You don't select any one of the descendants. You select the root node, and then in the entity inspector, you find the internode in the list of primary components, and there's a button called the calculate L string indices. So yeah, you click this, and as you can see, the index already changed to 1 here. So if you like take a look at other indices, you can see they're different. Okay, so now to visualize the specific range of branches with the indices that we want, you open the settings right here. It's inside the internode window, and in the color mode, you scroll down to the bottom and select the index range. Okay, this one. Alright, so after you select the index range, you'll see two new settings come up, which is the range min and the range max. So currently is in default it sets to 128 and 512. You can change the numbers here. So and you can see the changes will immediately be applied inside this visualizer. Okay, so right, so let's just set it from 0 to 1024, and then let's say if I want to export this as an OBJ, the first thing you need to do is to form a mesh from this tree. So in the internode window, this is not a mesh. This is a bunch of cylinders, which where each one of them represents a segment of the branch. So in the scene, we see nothing. All right. To generate the mesh, uh, you open the target behavior that you use to generate the tree. Since we use the space colonization behavior to generate this tree, we double click on this, and here there's a button called the generate meshes. You click on this, and then we have this mesh ready. So next is to export this mesh as an OBJ. To do that, you expand the root internode and collapse the first child, because like there's too much descendants, and it will block you to find the other child of this root internode. And under this root internode, you'll find a child called the branch. Okay, so in this entity, it contains a private component called the skinned mesh renderer. All right, so you find this skin mesh renderer inside the entity inspector, and you double click on the new skin mesh. Okay, and inside the asset inspector, you notice there's a button called the export as OBJ. So yeah, that's all. All you need to do is like to store the OBJ with the name you want. Let's call it index range. and put it on the desktop. Alright, so now let's take a look at what we've got just now. So let me open the mesh lab, and let's just drag the obj we just created. And as you can see, the branch with index from 0 to 1024 is colored blue, and the rest is colored white. Exactly the same as what we saw inside this visualizer. Okay, so the next thing is like the index divider, which allow you to color the index in different color based on like how the divider here. So as you can see, the divider is preset to 512. It can just change it. Okay, and also as always, if you want to export this, you the first thing you do is to double click on the internal behavior that you use to create the tree and generate the mesh. Every time you make changes inside the visualizer, you have to regenerate the mesh because the vertex color in the OBJ changed. Okay, so let's do that again. And inside the skin mesh, you double click on it and export as OBJ. Let's call it index div this time. Okay, so let's close this one and reopen the mesh lab, and this drag and drop. Okay, so now you can see this is the index divider, like how is coloring the branch segments. So so yeah, this is like all the things you need to know. And here I just demonstrate another internal behavior. Like let's say if I want to create a procedural tree, if I want to create a pine tree. So yeah, let's double click the general tree behavior, and inside the asset inspector we click on the create and import the parameters. Let's say the pine tree. Okay, so we want to create a pine tree. Uh, is it working? No, I don't think so. Okay, so yeah, we need to put the parameters under the project folder. So let's do it. Let's copy this one to here. Okay, so now we have the parameters, and let's load the parameters from here again. So it's in the release pine tree. Okay, so this time it's successfully loaded. Uh, then let's grow the pine tree. Okay, so now we have this pine tree ready. Inside the visualizer is all colored black because we haven't recalculated the indices in the L string. So let's do it. Okay, so this one is not useful anymore. So yeah, we select the root internode right here, and we find the internode prior component under the entity inspector, and we click on the calculate L string indices. And as you can see, now we have different colors for different branch segments. Oh, so yeah. And also like for the index range, we can change the range that we want. Okay. And also like now let's export this whole thing as an OBJ. And the first thing we'll need to do is to double click and inspect this general tree behavior. So you double click on it, and you click on the generate branch mesh. Okay, so in the scene we have this mesh ready, and so let's export the mesh as an OBJ. So the thing we'll need to do is we find the branch entity as one of the child of the root internode's children. So we find this skin mesh over here, and we export as the OBJ. So let's do it. Let's name it Pine Index Range. Okay, so let's take a look at the new mesh we exported. Yeah, so this is the pine tree with the specific range from let's see, from 0 to 104 1426. Okay, so yeah, this is it. That's it.